Welcome to another episode of SpeakUp, LightUp. If you are an entrepreneur, oncepreneur, or simply a person who wants to live life based on your own terms and conditions, you are investing your time right. I'm your host, Valerie Persetio, and today we have a very exciting topic, actually figuring out what does it take to start business and stay until the end if you want to get access to the testing model that figures out is if you what you are doing is actually good for you. You're doing the right business. Are you excited? Let's go. So today we have an amazing, super special guest. The co-founder of Your Natural Healthcare is also the partner and the co-founder of CSW Consultancy, specializing in personal and professional development, studying and scaling business and coaching for executives and their teams. Rose Chastain is masterful in training people to produce breakthrough results. She has trained over 14,000 people in speaking. She has 20 plus years experience in consulting with people and organizations, and the Stanford Graduate School of Business has certified Rose Chastain as an expert in scaling business. During their certification process, she worked with over 5,000 startups, Fortune 500 companies, as well as nonprofit organizations. So meet and greet my no BS, amazing badass coach, Rose Chastain.
Thank you, Valerie. So great to hear yourself from another perspective. You know, when you're in your skin, you're just working, you're just fulfilling a vision. Then you go, oh yeah, that is good. I've done a lot.
Yes. Well, actually, I feel like it's good all times. We were hosting with Rose a podcast. That's how this podcast journey began. And today she's in a completely different role as an amazing coach, a business mentor, and she's doing amazing things. So I think you have to listen to this episode. And really, if you're about to scale your business, start your business, this is a person who creates magic for business owners. So
Thank you so much, Valerie.
Entrepreneurship is all about like hustle, 24 hours hustle, and sometimes it really feels like that. From the other side, from the other edge, there are people who are, in a way, it's cool to be an entrepreneur, especially when you go to networking events like, hello, I'm a serial entrepreneur. It sounds cool. I think people are mixing so much the definitions of a project and versus the real business. So what entrepreneurship does mean for you, and maybe also a little bit how your journey began?
Sure. I love how you say that. It is so popular to say you're an entrepreneur. You know, almost everyone's LinkedIn profile says entrepreneur, founder, and most of them do not have businesses. They have projects, like you said. That's perfect. I did not mean to be an entrepreneur. That was not my plan. First, I was going to be a ballerina. Then I found boys, and then that plan was over. And then
what a path!
Exactly. And then I had an amazing career with a personal development company, and I worked with them for quite a while. And then leaving that, I wanted to create something of my own. And my first vision was, okay, I have to find a company that's really up to something inspiring, that just lights my soul on fire. It's so exciting. And I'll go work with them because I'm so trained now. I have all this skill set. So that was my plan. And it turns out the vision that I had in my mind about this company that lights your soul on fire didn't exist, at least not the way that I saw it, that it could. And so I said, okay, well, I guess I have to start my own project. And it really was at first a project, And then I was like, oh, taxes, oh, filing, oh.
Yes.
There was a whole lot more involved. And then I started studying, and then I learned from different mentors that I had the privilege of working with. And for me, there's entrepreneurial thinking. People say, I'll make my camera come back in focus. There we go. People say, are you an entrepreneur? Really, all you have to do to be an entrepreneur is you start some business or some project. You know, kids with lemonade stands are entrepreneurs. But there's entrepreneurial thinking, which is separate from like manager and structural thinking, which is separate from technician thinking or practitioner thinking. And entrepreneurial thinking is when you're out on the skinny branches and you say to yourself, I wonder what would happen if we did this. I wonder what would happen if I did this, you know, and then taking that wondering and building the infrastructure around your wondering. I have a lot more to say about what's that, but that's entrepreneurial thinking. And if you're doing entrepreneurial thinking correctly, the person who's the manager, and a lot of times when you're starting your own business, that person is also you. Like you kind of develop the split personality you have to nourish and pay attention to. But the manager is going to be driven crazy by the entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur is going to go, I wonder if we did this. I wonder if we did this. I wonder if we do this. And the manager is going to go, but how do I structure that? How does that set up? What are the numbers for that? Then there's going to be this technician mindset or practitioner mindset. And they're going to go, oh my God, you guys are coming with too much stuff, too many structures, too many good ideas. I can't get this all done. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to go crazy, you know, and that's a lot of times people start their own businesses and that's the state they're in. They're primarily in the state of, I can't get it all done. Or it's overwhelming, or why can't I find good help? I mean, there's sort of things like that people worldwide all will say, you know, is I just can't get people to buy, or I don't understand why they don't say yes to me, you know, these kind of things. Did I answer your question? I know I go down on this. Well, let me tell you, I love this topic.
We feel your passion, but just summarize it. Besides splitting personality, what does it take to start the business, and most importantly, actually, to run it? You know, or because there are like people who probably are planning to start the business, or people who want to finally shift from doing project to founding a real business.
Yeah. Most people start, I'm going to answer your question. I have a step-by-step formula for people.
Yeah.
I know. Thank God there's a formula.
Right down.
But most people start businesses because somebody tells them, wow, your cooking is so good, you should start a restaurant, some version like that. Or, oh, wow, you're such a good coach, you should start a consultancy company, you know, something like that. That you're a good cook, or you're a good coach, or you're a good anything doesn't mean you're a good business person. And that's the first thing most people don't want to deal with. Nobody wants to say, I don't think I'm a good business person. But if you look at your skill set and what you're trained in, I know for me, when I started this business journey, I didn't realize that there was a big difference between cash flow and profitability. I just didn't know. I didn't have that particular kind of education. And knowing the difference between those two things definitely changes what actions you take, you know? So that's the first thing is you have to start with telling the truth to yourself. Is this something you're passionate about? Great. Have someone hire you and you can do what you're passionate about. And then they can take care of the bookkeeping and the taxes and the, you know, the infrastructure and the employees and who's going to do the administration and all that stuff that's involved in a business. So that's first thing before I give the secret formula is tell yourself the truth about where you're at. And is this something you're passionate about? Are you passionate about running a business? Like the movie The Founder, which was about Ray Kroc and McDonald's. He wasn't a burger flipper. He didn't make a good burger. He was passionate about the business and the system. And those are two very different skill sets. So the first thing, you have to tell yourself the truth about what you're doing. And I know that there are people that say, well, if you're doing your life's purpose and you're authentic, the business will come to you. And I think that there are aspects of that are accurate, but you're much more likely to be effective if you also tell yourself the truth and then have the system, and you start working the system, and then the business comes to you. So, okay, here's my formula. So that's first steps, tell yourself the truth. But the first, you tell yourself your truth, and then you see if you can articulate what's your primary aim. So I know you're a ballroom dancer. And if you went dancing and you're competing, you wouldn't say, I don't know if I'm going to do a waltz or a tango. I don't know what I'm doing today. I'll just go out there and do it. And we'll see what happens. You would never do that. You know, if you're doing the tango, that's one kind of dance. And if you're doing a waltz, that's another kind of dress and another kind of dance, you know. So why do we think businesses are any different? So the first thing is, what is your primary aim? And most people, if they tell the truth, their primary aim is that they have a good idea and it sounds exciting, and they don't want to work for somebody else because they're too stubborn. And so then they go out and they want to go fulfill their dream. Most of these dreams are not based in any kind of reality. There's been no research on what it's practically going to take to implement that type of business. So that's one big category under primary aim. The second one is people who need money. And I think I'm lucky in that when I started my entrepreneur journey, that was the category I was in. I was like, oh, I have to find a job. You know, what am I going to do here? And I just started hustling and working. And in the process, I learned a lot. And everybody I know who has a successful business, including some of the people you've interviewed who I know as colleagues, and they all have this story of, I had no option and I had a dream. And when your back's up against the wall, whether that's a real physical, like I can't feed my children if I don't do this, or if it's like your pride will be so severely wounded if you don't do this. When your back's up against the wall, you're able to push past your comfort zone. And every entrepreneur runs smack into their comfort zone. And that's the other reason it's so important to identify your primary aim is you have to have a very clear vision that's burning in your belly with desire for you to fulfill this. You know, I'm talking so much, but I'm so excited about this. You just interrupt me, Valerie, if you want to ask different direction. Okay, so once you get your primary aim clear and you tell yourself the truth about why and what you're doing, then you need to come up with your strategic plan. So let's say you want to have the world's best breakfast restaurant. Okay, we're going to use that because my honey is making me breakfast as we speak.
Breakfast time.
Breakfast time, exactly. So you're going to build the world's best breakfast restaurant because, you know, breakfast brings back this feeling of home, and you know, that's when your family was together. So it makes you feel happy and satisfied, and you want to give that away to people. And everybody says your breakfast is so amazing, right? So then you go and you create the strategic plan. So how am I going to do this? And you go, okay, what are the numbers I know? What are the numbers I don't know? You know, you start getting things into these two categories of what do I know? What do I not know? What does food cost? How do you track loss? What is the cost of napkins? Are we going to have napkins? Are we going to have paper napkins? Are we going to have counter service? You know, as many details as possible that you can create. And most of the time, people stop here because they're stressed out by the details they don't know. Mm. And really this step two, the strategic plan or building the strategic plan, is the exercise of compiling and determining what you know and what you don't know. If you're in America, there's a great resource called SCORE, SCORRE.org, and it's a government website that's for small businesses. And I believe you can access it from anywhere in the world, but don't quote me on that part. But what they have is templates, business plan templates, and everybody talks about that you need a business plan. Mm. Not because that's going to, your first business plan isn't going to provide a map or a reason for funding. Your first business plan is going to point out all the things you don't know. And you want that information. You want to know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So then you get your strategic plan, and then you do an internal test. So here we have Valerie's beautiful breakfast place where you go, and you get the best environment. They always have gorgeous flowers, and the people look happy to be there. And she makes the best vegan, organic, beautiful breakfast. and then you run through the test yourself. So you actually make a breakfast, and you think just by yourself. There's no customers, no one else involved, but you time, can I do this famous vegetable frittata the same way every time? Do I care about that, the system of it? So then you do an external test. You bring in employees, you bring in friends and family, whoever it is you're going to build your business with, and you say, okay, here's step 1 through 10. Run through step 1 through 10. Let's see if it works. Mm-hmm. But this whole time, this is now maybe 6 months in. You're doing this testing, and you're doing testing with an open mind, not testing in, I have to get this done, testing in, I wonder. You're still in, I'm wondering. And then by the time you're done with this external test, you've figured out all the things that won't work. And then what you get to do is you get to find a way to correct the things that won't work. And then you also find a way to express your primary aim to the people that will be involved in your business. And this is the trick, is the switching from strategy and testing to expressing your passion while using a system. I don't know about you, Valerie, but it's like, well, maybe as a dancer you have more experience in this, but not everybody does, which is this. It's hard to do things precisely, but then also add your own flair and self-expression. And I know, as an entrepreneur, you've managed to do that. And as a dancer, you do that, the way you hold your hand or whatever it is, the little things, right? So that's when you switch from the external test to now you start implementing. And when you implement, you want to make sure you're implementing your primary aim and what your vision and dream is for that.
That's an amazing connection of the, that's what you're good at. I mean, sometimes you have this kind of ingredients, whole bunch of ingredients, and you have no idea what to do with this. And at the end you come that everything is served in a beautiful plate. It's delicious and it makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's a great business. How can I say, business insider?
Yeah.
That's how your strategic thinking is working, your entrepreneurial thinking. But it's very interesting that you mentioned taking your passion and thinking implement it strategically. But I see a lot in the industry, like coaching, personal development, also business development, that it's in a way a hook that people advertise and saying, yeah, let's build business based on your passion. Do what you love and you will never have to work again.
Right.
And when entrepreneurs come to this hot seat things, and then they ask you these questions: what are your numbers? What is your business plan? What is your strategy? And at the end, the vision, the dreams are crashed with the verdict, not monetizable.
Yes.
So where is the truth?
Mm-hmm. I believe that your why, your vision is very private and personal. Private's not the right word. I think everybody should know, but it's very personal and it's very unique. So you have this vision, let's say, oh goodness, there was someone I worked with who wants to build a financial training company. And she wants to build this because she believes no one should have to be poor, and people just don't understand how money works. So, which is really inspiring. And she has the blessing of having been raised in a family that has wealth and has means, and she can see the difference between her life and what she can do and other people's lives. And so she wants other people's lives to have that, right? That's where it starts. A lot of times people will say this isn't monetizable because the entrepreneur who has the dream and the vision cannot think any other way. What they can do is dream. They haven't come up with the practical aspects of it. And I believe no matter how great of a business person you are, there is a struggle to balance between the person who knows the thing, the technician, like for McDonald's, using McDonald's as an example, there's the person who's making the burgers. Then there's the person who is designing and implementing the structure that's going to make sure those burgers come out the same way every time. And then there's the person who has this dream about this structure that will make the world's best McDonald's ever, And those three people have to find peace inside of you. And when people go to some event like that and are told that their dream isn't monetizable, it's because they haven't transitioned from the entrepreneur or the dreamer into someone who has a plan for practical implementation. It's one of the things that I love about TV shows like The Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or something like that is that there are these people who had a dream. They had a dream back then, and the dream has been fueling them. But then they went to work, and they know their numbers, and they know their structure, and they know how it's going to happen and how it's going to grow. And, you can see the people on the panel, saying, okay, how much have you done in sales, and what's your profit margin? What's the cost, and what's your cost of goods? And they know that, and they know those structures. And this is the first really hard thing that you have to do as an entrepreneur, is take a beautiful dream and really make it ugly, really ruin it. You make it this ugly thing of check boxes and structures, So that's what I have to say about that.
Well, this is a completely different perspective in a way, that how people perceive. And when they have this answer, like it's not monetizable, it means that, okay, my dream is crashed and collapsed and it's over. Wings cut, I'm done, nothing's going to work. But as you mentioned, in reality, it just takes transitioning. And I hope that people who are listening, they will change their perspective, and maybe they have this old, dusted business plans that you can now pull out and really recheck and see what can be changed, adapted to the time we live in today, and what you can optimize. So thank you for this brilliant perspective.
You're welcome.
And as promised, is because I know you mentioned once this testing model to really figure out if what you're doing is really what you're supposed to do. Because, persistency is important, but when you're 10,000 years doing and nothing works, maybe you have to think about changing the path, or vice versa. Maybe you're not supposed to change the path. It's just really about changing the strategies. I don't know. So any science, the model, the measures?
Well, what I love about business, you have to remember that a large part of my professional background has been in personal development. But what I love about business is it takes the transformation of a person and it turns it into something completely objective. So a business owner has to transform to have their business thrive. They have to transform from a dreamer to an implementer, to an inspiring person, they have to be a new kind of person. And what's awesome about business is that you get immediate feedback. Did your revenue increase? No? Okay. Then you have to find another way to make the revenue increase. Or maybe that's a project. Goes back to telling the truth. But for example, I just updated and did an assessment about one of my revenue streams in the healthcare business that I own. And I realized that the mileage I was reimbursing people for was based on the wrong tax rate. Okay. So I had to go and correct this. And this wasn't a big deal. Like, it was the difference between 50 cents and 75 cents. Okay. It was not huge. But what that did was make an entire revenue stream not profitable, or occasionally profitable, and it's how accurate and complete can you get the numbers in the system? so that you get immediate feedback. So I know immediately now this revenue stream, although we make money every single time we do this, overall for the business, it's not a good revenue stream, you know? So then when you're talking about your whole business, well, does it light your soul on fire? Do you love working just, you know, because you love doing that? Well, that's not tangible or measurable, but it's just as important. If it lights your soul on fire, then go get a side job, wait tables at a restaurant to pay your bills, and go do what you love until it makes money, or partner with people. So it all goes back to Valerie telling the truth about what you want and what this business is doing. And you know, we're in the middle of another transition between, I'm going to say, business being primarily run by baby boomers to businesses being primarily run by millennials. And this transition is a big transition. It's the difference between work hard, save your money, retire, and lifestyle businesses that just, its purpose is to give you a good quality of life and to make a difference in the world. And that may sound like a slight, subtle thing, but the impact is massive. The impact is massive. And many, many people have had a dream, gone out, went to fulfill it, and lived happily ever after. What the trick is, and this has always been the trick, is to balance the strategy with that dream and tell the truth. So if you ask yourself, like, there's nobody around, so you won't look bad, you won't be embarrassed. But if you ask yourself, is this really making money? And is this really just so exciting to me that my soul's on fire? And then you got to tell yourself the truth. And I believe that if you follow that, it'll turn out. There's one other piece in here too, which is very subtle. So that's the one thing. It's like there's three things here, actually, I'm going to say. So you got to tell the truth to yourself and be clear on what's important to you and what you're measuring. And then you have to be responsible for, there is a transition. So what do you measure? As for a lifestyle business, what do you measure? I mean, how do you measure the joy of working from a different country every couple of weeks? You know, how do you measure that kind of glee, right? Or networking, or I don't know, buying gold in Dubai only, you know, like how do you measure that kind of joy? Okay, so that's two things. And then the third thing is that there is very much a standard about what is successful business that is designed from the masculine and the feminine perspective, which is a whole other soapbox. Don't worry, I won't get on that today. But women that I work with tend to think that they should be able to work like men. And men want to be able to have the magic that women can bring. And we're finding new ways of working, because what it is to run a business and to work has always been filtered through that masculine perspective. So that's another big change that we're in the middle of, I would say.
Yeah. Well, at the end, I wanted to also ask how to keep this romance with your business, because now it's like in a relationship. You do have this, you fall in love, you have this big picture in your mind, but then it comes the everyday routine that, in a way, you know, destroy all this picture, and you feel like, okay, I am supposed to love it, but I'm so exhausted, or I'm so overwhelmed, or there's so many things, but I think it's so important to figure out how to balance in a way that you're still in love what you do, because you mentioned it. So it's one part of this. So maybe with personal recommendations, or maybe clients, you saw how they are supported. Yeah.
I'm afraid to say that it goes back to telling the truth to yourself. But it's, and I mean that in a slightly different way, which is if your job as the founder is to create better and better structures that work by themselves and fuel and enrich the people who are touched by these structures. If that's your job, you never fall out of love with that. If your job is to make the best breakfasts and finally be profitable in spite of the increased cost in food, and then the plumbing backs up, and then the landlord raises your prices, and then, you know, if that's your job, oh God, it's like the worst relationship ever, you know.
Exactly.
So you have to be clear that that's not your job as the founder. It is to find a structure and implement the structure in such a manner that the people who are impacted by it, their soul's on fire. They know they're fulfilling a dream and a purpose. There's a company that I worked with for a long time. And one of the things that they do really well is that every employee and volunteer, they feel like they're a part of changing the world. Mm. And that really makes a difference. And even with the Stanford Business School, the conclusion we all came to, everyone that was working on this project, was that the number one key to growing a business is how well you communicate that inspiration. Mm.
That's true.
So if the structure, like turning in your timesheet or, I don't know, filling out a report on a client, if the structure instills a sense of pride in you, like, God, these reports are so beautiful. Every time I fill out this report, someone's life has changed. And that's how you feel, then you're going to fill out the reports really well. And you're going to love it.
Well, that's amazing. And I just invite and encourage everybody to start changing how you view your work and just simply fall in love again with this. So at the end, I always ask my guests to envision themselves as creators, because we are all creators of our own universe. So as Rose creator, what would be your message to the audience? What your voice would like to project and anyhow to light up?
I created that a long time ago, that who I am is someone who is going to bring about a change in the world where everyone knows that they have a say about their life. And I am always creating businesses and projects and new ventures, and but they're all about people creating their own life and having a say in their own life. So I always am looking for and inviting people to come play with me in whatever that might be for you, whatever dream that's been buried deep down that you think you can't do or you can't have because of X, Y, or Z, whatever the reasons are. Free yourself. And if you can't do it, call me. I'll do it with you. So I believe that business, it can be a spiritual, transformative thing. And it can be means for people to build whatever it is they want, whether that's a beautiful garden or their family or whatever it is. So this is the time of creation, and your creation has a lot of power. Free yourself.
So it's time for freedom. And if you are ready to level up your business, if you want to finally make your vision come true, check the link in the description box. We will leave how you can connect with Rose with a social media website. And thank you very much for being here today with us. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you in the next episode.